Hello, everybody. We are back with another sweet monthly update. We have some of the usual people here. We have Manuel, a senior producer on the team. We have Dawn, our design director, and Jason, our engineering director. Say hi, everybody. I want to remind everyone something. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at some of this material. We do not create these images and videos for this presentation. This is what we have internally. So at the end of every month, when we've completed our milestones, we share our work with the rest of the team. And so a lot of the videos that you're going to see today, they're not super slick and polished. A lot of it's just kind of the internal banter and just kind of what we share to show off the work that we did the previous month internally. So hoping you guys dig that, and it's a little bit of how that sweet sausage is made for our Discord bingo. I am watching Discord, guys. As always, I am in the discussion channel, and so is everybody else. Hi, Freya. Hi, Captain Nero. We see you there. Boon Jab, what's up? Manuel, you want to say the things?
Before we get started, guys, we really want to help that algorithm. So if you could like and subscribe, just smash that like button. And if you really want to help the YouTube algorithm, you share the link. That's the secret sauce right there.
Smash that like button. Oh my gosh. All right, we did it. Got that over with. Anyway, guys, let's just dig right on in. And I think it's techie stuff first. Jason, you should cover that business.
Techie stuff. All right, yeah. Last month was a big month. We got a lot of stuff done. I mean, every month is a big month, but this month in particular, we have been kicking a lot of cans down the road because we've had stuff to do. But the last couple of months, we've really dug in, and there's some stuff that's really changing that's going to help make our lives easier and also make the users' lives easier. And one of those is that Brandon has been working on getting the asset bundle system up and going. And man, does that make a huge difference. So when most games you boot them up and the first thing you get is this tiny little executable, and then you sit there with this massive load bar. That's exactly what asset bundles is. So that massive load bar is you downloading a bunch of stuff that hopefully doesn't change very much. But Brandon has been working on getting that so that our development process uses that all the time. So it's not just a build process thing, it's all the time. So while we're running inside our editor and in our environment, we'll be able to test exactly the way you guys will be experiencing it. So that sounds like a huge pain, but actually that makes life easier because then we're dog fooding our own all the time. So that makes life easy. But what it also means to you is that net, you'll be downloading something that's right now it's about 400 megs instead of 2 gigabytes. When we're done, it'll probably be more like 50 megs. So that little stub will be tiny. And then that massive load bar will download lots of little pieces of stuff. But as long as that stuff doesn't change, you don't have to download it again, which means that whenever we have quick patches because we broke something, we should be able to make a tiny little change. It never happened. I mean, never
going to break anything.
But it's a lifesaver because it means that we can push up a new build in minutes and it doesn't super impact all you guys. So that's big. That's about to be checked in the next couple of days, actually. Let's see. Brad has been working on this stuff. This is as close to dark magic as it gets, but it's called the Group Imposter LOD. And basically, Group Imposter LOD is like, imagine you could just paint a picture of some stuff way off in the distance and then just show people the picture instead of actually having to draw all those things. That's what we do is we take a little box and we're like, everything that fits inside of this box, we're going to draw it and then just keep that as a texture. And then whenever we're supposed to draw it again, we just put the texture on screen. That's effectively what that's a massive simplification, but that's what it is. And so what that means is that things up close to you are real 3D objects and things way off in the distance, they're 3D objects, but we put them into a little box and then we draw a sticker of them instead of the whole thing. So what that does is it means that people on lower end hardware, not everybody has a 4060. I do. I mean, I have 3 of them.
No big deal.
But, everybody else, you should get a 4060. But if you don't have one and you have a 1060, we're going to try and make the game kind of playable. Our goal there is 30 frames a second. If we can do better, great. But everybody with a decent, more recent GPU should be fine with like 60 frames.
It's also a springboard too. That work is to be able to see further in the distance too, right, Jace? Like,
oh, totally, yeah. And actually, there's the previous month. One of the thing that played into this was actually Brad built a thing that lets us render the entire outside of the world that you're playing in as a giant cube, and that giant cube captures the entire world outside of it. So like when you're in Narrow's Landing and you see the tower in the distance for the Citadel of the Sun, that tower will be part of that cube map. Well, that's kind of the same tech as like drawing a sticker of something that is way cheaper than actually drawing that thing every frame. So what that does is it gives us back CPU time, but also gives us back a bunch of GPU time. And there's reasons for that I'll get into in a second. So Brad's about to land that branch. I think he's already got it in QA today. So that's big. And what did I do? I didn't do anything. No. I did a lot of stuff, but mostly meetings. In between all the meetings, I got microphone handling working. So, yeah, microphones are a huge pain in the ass. Let me just say that getting real-time audio off of a microphone and handling it quickly is incredibly challenging. So incredibly challenging that if you Google up microphone handling Unity, you'll find hundreds of links of people asking how to do it. There's no answers. So I got it working. You can actually go into the settings screen. You can do the drop down and pick which microphone you want, because you can have several on your machine, and it'll live change to it. There's a calibrate button that lets you like sample the noise in your room, and it discards anything below that. Like trying to get the pieces in place so that when we have real-time streaming voice, it's not a whole lot of lift after we kind of get the core tech there. So this is all fixed cost. We've already done it. And yeah, I managed to pull live audio off of a microphone in 22 milliseconds. So pretty damn fast. It's good enough you could do like guitar effects and stuff like that. So, and that actually we'll use later. So the next thing.
In the next tech test, actually.
We're going to talk about, well, I'll let you talk about that. So the next thing that's pretty cool is Jonas has built some really amazing tech for our world sim. And the last thing that he was working on was trying to build collision on the server. So instead of just having a nav mesh where the monsters are walking around, now they kind of have an idea of more than just the nav mesh, but actually all the rocks that are outside of the walkable space and big trees that are kind of in the space and all the things that normally AIs don't always have to know about this. Some games get along without it, but this is not an ordinary game. We want monsters to be pretty smart. And yeah, go ahead, Paul. Go ahead and roll that first video. We'll just let Jonas talk.
Started with
it's going to kill so many people.
Some kind of a working collision thing on the server, and we've been working a lot with projectiles and NPCs, firing projectiles, and so on. So the first thing we noticed once we had any kind of collision on the server was that the resolution was not good enough, especially when the arrows. You see an arrow in the middle of the screen here that's stuck to the ground, and it's you need pretty good resolution for it to not like levitate or be hidden in the ground. So that was the first kind of improvement we made this month, so that to have arrows actually stick to the ground in a good way. The other thing that we talked a little bit about, both Eric F and Eric T talked about shattered arrows, and this is such an underwhelming screenshot, but this is what the shattered arrow looks like, and it is based on what you hit. So if you hit the ground, it will stick at the moment, at least. And this is for the NPCs only. It's a little bit odd, but the NPCs fire arrows, and the arrows fly slightly different for the NPCs than for the players at the moment. So this is in a rock, even though it's green, it's still a rock, and it shattered. Another thing that we changed or improved this milestone is friendly fire. So it used to be that the NPCs only used to hit each other. They only used to hit their intended target, you, in other words. And now they can hit each other kind of by mistake. So oftentimes, if you have a melee goblin all up in your face, and other ranged goblins shooting, they might hit him, or they may hit other animals that are like deer and stuff that are big that is running around. So every now and then you will get some interesting interactions. And so this is it doesn't really show in the screenshot, but you have to trust me that another goblin shot those arrows. And then the final thing I did was what we talked about, tags in the world. There are actually a few types, but currently the only one that is used is the food situation for deer. It's not super clear, but in the middle of this screenshot, there's a deer eating some of these bushes. We also have the concept of where they can go and drink, and places in caves where wolves can go back, but all of that hasn't made it into the animal behaviors yet. That's basically it. Yeah, we're almost done adding some another thing I've worked on is having more rules around spawning. So what we've talked about before, only spawn at certain times of day. That isn't in integration yet, but it's almost there.
Yeah, so that's some pretty amazing tech. All of that happened this month. So shattering arrows and friendly fire on monsters and all sorts of stuff like that. There's another video we're going to show in a second, but one of the things I wanted to point out is that having friendly fire means now monsters have to think about whether or not, one, can they hit you with an arrow at all? That's why we have collision on the world sim, so that they can figure out, is it even possible for me to shoot an arrow at you and not waste a bunch of arrows on rocks and trees and things like that? But also, is it appropriate for me to try and shoot right now because my guys might be in the way, right? So we're trying to do as many things as similarly on the NPC side as we do on the player side, and that's you'll see some of that in a second.
So they're only nightly critters, yes. We need the ability to have things respawn based on different conditions in the world. So yeah, this is part of making that happen.
Yeah, a lot of this world sim stuff in general is super exciting because games have barely touched on this. We're in uncharted territory, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to see stuff like, and I mean, the level of simulation is, I don't want to go like super deep on it. It's the stuff that players are going to see. It's the things that you'll notice. We're not simulating things you can't see and things you can't really touch and feel. I mean, it's a waste of effort, but we do want it to feel as consistent as possible. Like the world needs to feel consistent.
It needs to act in a way. One of the things that we say a lot on the team is that it should act in a way that you would expect. The whole game becomes intuitive, and we use the word physical a lot. The game should feel physical. So natural, yes. And we love the idea that you're firing an arrow and you might think ahead of time, like, man, if this arrow misses and it hits that rock, it's going to shatter. But if it hits a tree, it's not impossible that you could recover that arrow. And if arrows need to be crafted and there's a cost, that could be something that would be available based on the tech that we're building. And we talked a little bit about this last time, but there's just that possibility that you could shoot an arrow and a goblin could be out of arrows, run over, retrieve your arrow, and shoot it back at you. And we don't know if we're totally going to commit to that yet, but I love that idea. That's pretty cool. So
there's another video we should show. It's got some stuff in there that this doesn't show everything that I want to call out Angel for, because he did so much other than this last month. But this video, go ahead and roll it. It's basically like showing how.
Yeah. So this is just the video. I mean, I'm not going to go through it like frame by frame, but essentially it's just me walking around, and you can hear like subtle footsteps of this guy walking around. These footsteps are generated by MXM like events, and so is that jump. So things that I still need to work on are the weapon sound effects and the death sound effect. But aside from that, the pipeline is built so that we can essentially extend upon this and improve it over time. And that's my update.
So what that really shows is not just like some audio is playing when a guy's animating, but what's happening on the network level is that rather than sending a little bit of information and then on my client, I'm regenerating the pose that your player is in and hoping that they turn out the same way. They don't always. Instead, what happens is you generate the pose in your machine with all kinds of CPU, like spending time getting exactly the right IK footing for your feet, touching the stairs and touching the ground, and locking in exactly where your attention vector is so that you can see, like, where is my head pointing, even though my body may be pointing somewhere else. We're not doing that yet, but we'll be able to do things like that. Or if we wanted to do like cape simulation or some other really expensive thing, you do that for yourself, and then you broadcast that to everybody else, and they don't have to do it for themselves. Instead, they just receive the data and then queue it up, and then we get to stream that. So that's part of the networking updates that I worked on a couple of months ago that allows us to do that more quickly. We send more packets, a little bit more data, but not a lot. And what we get out of it is we have audio going through that. We have VFX going through that. The same set of data is triggering for you as it is for everybody else. And no one has to spend a lot of CPU time figuring out, like, well, what am I supposed to show? It just happens like that. So what's great about it is now we have audio working through that system, and it's functioning. You know, the amazing thing is, like, that works for players. That's a non-scalable system. Like, we could have 100 players or 1,000 players in a zone. We don't really want to control for that.
Thanks. I heard it.
Okay, 200 players in a zone. So we're going to have like 50,
maybe let's go 1,000 in a zone.
200 players in a zone. So we're going to try to keep that number down, but we don't want to control for that. We want you guys to control for that. So instead, we need to make that as cheap as possible. And that's one way for us to do that, where the work happens on your machine and it gets spread out. So we can control for the number of monsters in a zone and things like that. But yeah, we're trying our best to avoid all the bottlenecks that most people have. So that's huge. Angel's done an amazing job on that. So the next thing actually is, we kind of did these out of order, but Eric Folland is one of our newer engineers, and he's done a lot of cool stuff partly on getting the arrow shattering tech in. He kind of like wired up some parts of it, and then the AI got to start using it. And then there's also some parts in here, and I want to preface this with, this is development work. This is not how it's going to work in the end. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to stand up just the bones of a system. And the easiest way for us to do that, a lot of custom code can be wired into items, and custom code is otherwise really expensive to just like wire into the middle of the server code. So we're building this thing a very specific way so that it's easy for us to develop. This is probably not how it's going to be revealed to you guys, but cemeteries are the next thing that Eric is working on. And he, in order for it to be quick and easy for us to implement kind of the guts of it, there's an item that you can buy from a cemetery building, and that item is supposed to be automatically equipped, which it is as of now. In the video it wasn't, but that thing allows us to store information like the cemetery's location and things like that, and give us the tooltip so that we can see what's actually happening. We're going to change all this later, but let's go ahead and roll the third video there, Paul.
So starting off this sprint, I had a nice little, fairly easy task compared to the rest. Making some of the arrows shatter. And this wasn't my effort alone. Jonas also helped. Oh, I've got gray boxes. All right, I'm on an old one. But anyway, once in a while, when you hit something, your arrow is going to be shattered. And this is kind of preparatory work before we can have some, talking about picking up arrows that aren't shattered. So you're going to have to make some strategic decisions based on the materials you hit. If you hit it in dirt, I believe we're going to have it so that your arrows shatter less. So you have some interesting decisions as you're firing at enemies. Maybe you want to angle yourself so you're hitting less against rock. We now have a way to tell what kind of material your arrow is hitting. So it won't be too hard to, if we haven't done it already, to get the arrows to choose what sound to play based on what you're hitting. We are already choosing how well they shatter or not in some cases based on the material you hit. So we could do the sound that way as well. So that was the first thing I was working on. I'm here at Narrow's Landing, and the rest of what I was working on is the revive sequence. We've been doing a bit of discussion around what's going to happen when you die. How do we actually want it? Right now, when you die, you just kind of fade to black. It says you are dead, and you reset. You're back on the dock, and you've lost all your items, you've started over. So it sounds like we're not going to be keeping it that way. And the original iteration of what we're going to do to get this going is you're going to have an item that you go to a cemetery. This is my temporary cemetery. It's just like a slab, just like in 2001 Space Odyssey. So you go up to this like a crafting place, and you press F to interact, and it's not super shiny yet, but this is the beginning of a building shop. So any building, we might be able to have items that you can buy, and no designer has told me how this should look. I've just got basically a generic list. You can't even see any scroll bar or anything, but it's a list of items that a building can have, and I've got the data backend for that, so we can start defining building shops. But this was the first iteration of something that needed that. So what we've done here is that you can buy a revive charm from a cemetery, and when you buy that, that's costing 1 materium, and that arrives in my backpack. And we're gonna have this auto equip, but when you have this equipped in this new charm slot, when you die, the idea is that you get teleported back to the cemetery you bought it at. This isn't going to stay like this. I believe we're going to just do, when you die, you go to a different zone, and you can revive for free, and you'll go to the last cemetery you went to. Even the cemetery location is probably not going to stay. No designer told me to put it here. I just put it here to get something going. But yeah, that's, we've got a revive charm. This is AI art, just the basics. I'm still hooking everything up, and we'll probably have another pass to make the revive sequence more toward what the designers are looking for. But that's my contribution this sprint.
Right away, because there's already questions flying in the Discord. Again, guys, there's just some foundational tech we needed to build, and we can store data on objects. So where this is going, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Don, but it's essentially like you're being soul bound to a cemetery, and how it will actually work is you'll find a cemetery that you want to revive at. Let's say you're pushing into a new zone. You're like, man, if I'm going to die, I want to come back here and not all the way back at the other one. And you will go to that cemetery and tap on the altar, essentially, and you'll be soul bound to that cemetery. That is where you will revive if you die. And we can store all that information on an object, and it's not going to take up room in your inventory. We're going to have kind of some special slots we're thinking in for items that we don't want to take space in the inventory, and you don't quite equip them and unequip them. So you kind of have a cemetery stone. It'll live somewhere, and it'll record where you last tapped. And you guys can imagine, sausage time. It's like, well, what happens if a player removes that cemetery that you're bound to? So we need to also keep a fallback, which would be the previous cemetery that you were bound to. Well, what happens if they moved that one? And, well, what happens if I bound to one, but there's no cemetery placed in the game? What if there's... So, we have to think through all of those scenarios, in those edge cases, guys. But the way it'll work is about how you would expect. If you find a new cemetery you want to respawn at, tap it, you bind yourself to it. When you die, you will essentially be in purgatory, Poltergeist, Carol Ann world. Where am I? And you will make the strategic decision of, should you come back with Materium, all fresh and magically clean, or will you come back a little bit less of your previous self with a loss of experience points and hungry and tired? Kind of a pet cemetery revive. So that's how it'll work. It's what we've always talked about before, but this was that foundational tech we needed to get it done, and Eric did a great job.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, a lot of this is because we don't have all the things that we'd like to have. For example, the type of item that is in your inventory but isn't something you can iterate, like move back and forth between your inventory and your slots. We just don't have that yet. So we're going to have to create custom types of items that are things you can't drop, things you can't sell, things like different kind of permissions and restrictions and things like that. There has to be something that represents the buildings that are in your wallet that are placeable, but they're not they're not like things you would equip, right? So we need representations for that. We've been busy just getting foundational tech in. So there's reasons why we do things in development that we never plan to actually release, and this is one of those things. So
and Pujab is asking, well, what if I don't have a charm at all? You know, everyone starts with one. You just start the game with one. You never replace it. You never upgrade it. It's just kind of an item in your inventory that lives there to store your cemetery preference on.
And it starts with the beach already preloaded in it. So when you enter the game, if you die, you go back to the beach because there's no cemetery because you haven't found one yet. So
Space is already talking about it.
There's a lot.
Cemetery as a travel system.
That's why you're not allowed to have like 15 charms, guys.
If we gave you 15 charms and then you died, you would use it for teleportation, you know, and you still can. I mean, there's other hacky ways. I mean, you could establish a cemetery yourself somewhere in a forward deed, bind yourself to that, remove that cemetery, and then when you die, it would go to the fallback that you previously. I mean, you know, there's some shady, interesting, fascinating things that we'll watch you guys do. Some of them we've thought of, some of them I'm sure we haven't.
If you guys want to pay that kind of materium to teleport, I mean, I'm not going to stop you.
It loses a significant amount of mastery as well.
Yeah. Well, you would come back fresh and new at the previous cemetery, yeah, if you wanted to spend that materium.
Yeah, if you did spend it, that's true.
We really started thinking about it like, you know, in relationship to the different continents of the world. You know, we want to make sure that the boats and the ships are very meaningful. So, you know, another thing that we've talked about is it's likely if you were to travel to one of the new continents or the new worlds or islands that you would probably be auto bound to a cemetery there when you arrived, such that you couldn't die and pop all the way back to another continent, something like that. But yeah, so, you know, we thought about, gosh, you know, what if I just respawned at the next closest graveyard or cemetery, right? Well, that might be rough because the next closest one is in a super evil zone to the left, and you would be in a terrible, scary spot where you would just be auto dying because maybe the creatures and everything are too scary. So we think if you've made it to a previous cemetery, that means you had the power to get there, and that a fallback cemetery system might work the best. But well, you know, as always, guys, we'll kind of implement what we think is the best thing, and we'll work with you guys and get feedback on how it's working. And if we need to make changes, we will. But I think cemeteries will work as we've discussed previously, which should be cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been helping work with Barry, who is our machine learning engineer, is to try and get the voice conversion system off the ground. And it's been bumpy. It's really quite challenging to get machine learning running in Unity. And it so happens, the best thing ever, Unity came out with their own system. So instead of us having to spend, like I literally spent about a month just trying to figure out different ways to get it to work. And it was only going to work in Windows. And oh yeah, it only worked in Windows 11, not even in 10. And only for certain people who had certain patches. It was such a mess. So the new system, we have it up and running as of yesterday. And wow, it actually works well. And I hope nobody from Unity is listening, but a lot of times that's not the case. So it works really well. And I love the fact that I get to report good news. There's some good stuff in here. And I'm going to preface this with, it's gobbledygook. It's gobbledygook because it's so gobbly. And yeah, so there's a 30-second little clip here that I think we'll play, and you guys will hopefully not ding us too hard on it. This is not our finished system. This is us figuring it out. So go ahead and run that one, Paul.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
I like bikes.
Hi. Hi.
I fucking love tacos.
Fucking of chocolate.
Do you like chicken?
You why chicken?
I love chicken.
Why was it? In
Jason, just as a refresher, can you explain what is happening? with that audio.
Okay, so what's happening there is we're running 3 different machine learning models at incredible frequency. Okay, let me start over. So when you're playing the game, we want to have your microphone open, and as you're talking, you're running around, you're talking, you're telling your buddy, hey man, move over to the left, hey, watch out, mother's coming, whatever. Root at the gates, right? You want to hear what people are saying. And what we're doing is we're taking audio in real time off the microphone and running it through a phoneme classifier, figuring out what snippets of words you might be saying. There's like a 90-something% chance that it's right. And that non-90-something% chance that it's right sometimes gives you completely wrong results. But it's trying to figure out the right phonemes that you spoke, which means that it works for any language and it'll just say what you said. And what we do is we compress it down to these tiny little pieces of information that's just the phoneme list. We send that out to the server sends it out to every other player in the zone. And then if it's close enough to you, it generates, using 2 different machine learning models, generates a mel spectrogram, which is basically like a 2D image of your voice. It generates that, and then it also uses a vocoder to kind of smooth it out. So that's 2 different machine learning models that then it plays as a wave file, basically, from the position of the person who spoke it. So you can positionally hear something coming out of their mouth, and it won't be their original voice, it'll be what they said. So as you can tell, like there's 3 different machine learning models. Each one of them is 90-something% accurate, but when you multiply 90-something% 3 times, you get something close to like 75%. So it's not very good. And these are the things that you learn after you promise a feature. So we're figuring out how to do this a little bit better, and we have some plans. But what we're doing is we're standing up the bones of running AI inferencing in Unity in real time. We have the networking working, we have the microphone handling working, we have the audio wave data working. So a big chunk of that is done. The next part is like, how do we technically handle the voice in a way that is going to be what we actually promised? And I don't want to steal my future update, but there's a really amazing package out there that can compress the living crap out of your voice, and it works really well. It's very low data rate. It's way faster and way better than all the voice compression systems that the military has been using for 30 years. Because people haven't really done a lot of good research in a while, but this new one came out last year or 2 years ago, and it's super good. It actually will handle us doing voice changing and still compress well. So we're probably going to dump what we're currently showing you and instead do something that is actually going to sound like a phone call. So don't hold me to it. It may be a terrible performing model, but it looks really good on paper. So we'll see how that goes.
This is what I call, and everyone on this call knows it. This is what, you know, when you're having a meeting with McCarthy and he says PhD project. This is our only PhD project. And what I mean by PhD project is making games can be fraught with peril if you start running at a grand array of things that you just don't know exactly how to do. There's just some kind of new thing and people get excited about it, and then they start building a game around it, and then it ends up getting dumped 3 years later, or it cancels your project. You cannot hinge video game development on those funny PhD projects. It usually murders a game. So you have to be very, very strategic about bets that are more risky. You know, we have a lot of work to do to build Mirandus, but it's about doing great work, and with everything that we're planning, there's a vision to how it can be accomplished and a precedent. I think this is probably our only PhD class project, Jason, I would say.
Well, I certainly don't feel really nervous about anything else we're promising. Like, this is the one that I'm like, man, if we don't ship with this, I'm going to be really sad. It won't torpedo the game. But I think we'll come up with something. Even if we didn't do voice changing at all, I think we'd still end up with positional audio. So worst case is we'll end up with you being able to talk to people in real time, and it'll make sense. We need that. We actually need that because the world sim is going to be listening too. Like, monsters are going to hear you. They're going to know when you're running around and talking to people. So, and we've got some cool stuff in the wings that I think, 2 or 3 updates from now, we'll talk about some of that.
But in the next tech test,
yeah, in the next tech test, you guys are going to be able to garbledygook at least. We'll see if
garbledygook was what we're committing to, guys. You know, with our journey on this very difficult thing to do that people just really aren't doing. We're going to do it, and it just might sound like garbledygook, and I think that'll be hilarious. If you guys are speaking and it's all like super funky, crappy, it'll be hilarious, and we'll get some fun YouTube videos out of it. But the goal is to stand it up enough that there is garbledygook, and it is positional garbledygook, and then over time it can get better and better and better. But Jason, we are committing 1,000 people in zone, which I thought
all
was
garbledygooking. Yeah.
Right. And
what did I do to get this job?
Hey, I can't believe it. 3,000 people in zone is going to be awesome. That's going to be just to be clear, trying to get 1,000 in a zone, 500 players, 500 creatures, right? I mean, that's kind of more.
Well, we're gonna aim for that,
right?
We're gonna aim for that. I don't know if we'll get to 1,000, but we'll do what we can. I think we have a really good, strong directional trajectory for getting to at least 500. I think we can probably get to 1,000. And actually, that's one of the things we're working on. And this is more an art update than anything, but getting it so that we have one material over all the players and all of their equipment, and not to the whole world, but reducing the number of materials means that we can do one draw call and it draws all the players in the entire zone, right? So we're doing that. We're getting to that point where, like, the triangle count isn't going to be the limiting factor. Our rendering is not going to be the limiting factor, and it's probably going to be more like the amount of bytes you can shove over a network pipe and still parse at the real-time rates. Like, we're trying to get to the point where there's solvable problems that we can get to and just add better compression or something, So yeah, it's challenging. What we're trying to do is not easy. Let's see. We got one more. Eric Tuvi's update is pretty awesome, and I think that
this one was huge.
When you see this, if you're not blown away, we cannot impress you. I'm sorry. So go ahead and roll this guy.
I'm going to show you some cool stuff that we've worked on over the last month. This goblin here is doing melee swipe attacks. We just finished adding full inventory management to AI, just like the player has, which means AI now use their inventory slots. They equip weapons, use those weapons, and unequip those weapons. There's still a lot of work to do with animations and weapon holds. Notice that this goblin has a short bow on his back. And this goblin can do ranged attacks. And now that we can switch weapons, we have multiple attacks. And the AIs will now switch those attacks logically. I'm going to run away from this ranged goblin, have him chase me, and he'll switch to ranged combat. Notice that he has his bow in his hand, and he's firing arrows at me. As I move around, he's constantly finding good line of sight places to attack me from. And if I hide behind this house, for example, and he can't see me, he has to find me. Now I'm going to run away and run up to the top of the hill. And I'm going to stop when I can't see him because of the terrain. There. And when he can see me, comes to the top of the hill and can see me, he continues his ranged attacks. And when I run up to him and get too close, he switches to melee attacks. Notice that his bow is stowed. Thank you very much.
So good.
Monsters carry equipment now. Monsters use equipment
know what's in their inventory, guys. They will equip things that make sense given the combat situation. If you hide around a corner, they will find you. They will search for you. And if you are still within range distance, they will shoot arrows at you. I cannot wait till 40 of them are flooding out of a cave. It's just going to be the best. And all of this, guys, you know, this game is meant to be a simulation, this world. You know, we're trying to get it to be like you're there. And, you know, one of the things that I always think about is I quietly enter a room, there's 10 sleeping goblins. Maybe there's a weapon rack in the back. You know, you attack one, it screams. The other goblins wake up. Some of them might have equipment on them, but some of them might see something in their environment that would be better to be attacking you with. Run over, grab it, and then start firing. You know, we're trying to create this living world. And I think that's part of what makes Mirandus so exciting, is that these things are thinking and they're observing their world and changing their strategy based on what's happening around them. So this was a huge thing to get stood up, and I'm hoping you guys can see through the janky temporary art how cool this is and what this might mean, especially given the last tech test you guys saw where they were real dummies. They're not so dumb anymore. They're going to be a lot harder to kill.
That's pretty much it for tech. I mean, that wasn't much. So, I mean, that's all I got.
Hey, Cahoots and Punjab are asking if the goblins can miss. And we can reiterate, this is not finished by any means.
Oh, they do miss. Actually, if you circle strafe them, they're not leading you very well. So, and it's not cheating. It's not like rolling the dice and deciding ahead of time whether they hit you. It's actually firing an arrow and it's stepping it through space. And if you happen to get out of the way, then you got out of the way.
Yeah, that's, you know, this is this is physics. And I think that's, you know, a big key fundamental difference than other games where you might hit the T button, target something, and then you're exchanging numbers to see who won. This is shooting an arrow. This is why we talk about, you know, halflings. You know, there needs to be, you know, halflings, because they're smaller, are going to be harder to hit, just like they would be in real life. They're smaller, so an arrow is going to have a harder time hitting them. Whereas an orc is larger, and his hitboxes will be larger, and he'll be a little easier to hit. So, you know, there's again, we're trying to create an intuitive, physical, natural world, guys, and this is all part of it. Where's Matt?
No Matt.
Is it too late to add Matt? Where the hell's Matt? We should have added Matt.
I don't think he was on the list.
Oh. Matt, dude, where's Matt? Matt's probably pinging me on Slack right now. Like, what? Am I supposed to be there? Oh, crap. Paul, is it too late to add Matt? Let's see if we can get Matt. I'm pinging him right now. Matt's the art director, everybody. I think he should talk about arty stuff. We'll see if he can join us. If not, we'll just fire it off. Yeah, we'll see. Don, you want to start? Talking about design stuff while we see if we can get Matt on the horn?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff going on for design. Obviously, we're working on kind of the whole game, but I do want to kind of touch on one thing super important to us, which is data-driven design. So, you know, for any game this size, we need to be able to create items and creatures. You got to get them into the game quickly, very quickly. It's important to iterate, test, kind of find the fun, and you know that's useful for gameplay reasons, but you know also for the balance of the economy. You know, to do this, we kind of make sure that everything that we can is driven by data, essentially spreadsheets, and that this is, you know, built dynamically at runtime from that data. You could think of it kind of like you're building a lot of different ingredients, and then you need to be able to say, write a simple recipe, and then the food is spawned automatically based on those recipes. That's very different than sort of handcrafting every single thing. And, you know, handcrafting is just not sustainable for the kind of numbers of items that we're talking about. So this is a big effort with big long-term rewards. I think we have a video of kind of very redacted images of the kind of things we're talking about, because obviously we can't share, a lot of internal stuff for the secrets that it has. But it's something it's near and dear to us, and it's very important for us to build this now while we still can, where we're still in development, and then leverage that system, going forward.
Let's just open source our docs, dude. Just
do we want to show the incredibly blurry spreadsheets?
I love the incredibly blurry spreadsheets. Although I can't be some sort of fancy algorithm that removes them.
And basically what we're doing is figuring out where everyone's going to hook up their equipment-related work to get it into the project and into the hands of players and NPCs. It's a lot of data, and it touches every department, impacting nearly everyone on the team. So this is a slow process, but it's well underway this month. So expect to be roped into meetings with me about spreadsheets very soon.
Oh, here's the classes. The first list, and obviously rainbow themed, is the alpha list. Pick 2 of each bucket for the different weapon types, so we can kind of achieve that. And I've also got the list of all the other ones post alpha. It's a post alpha list when we get post alpha. So there's plenty of stuff to do and plenty of things to get excited about. But the unique aspects of the alpha ones, different stuff from like things that just help you, your own damage, being able to be behind the guy, getting like maybe some extra loot, getting some scaling based on doing more mastery, things that do refreshes, or maybe like what else, interrupting or stuff like that. But the idea is to kind of have each one be a little bit different, so there's a feel of uniqueness with participation with others.
Yeah, we haven't talked about classes too much. Maybe we'll do a deep dive on that sometime soon in the future.
That'd be a cool one. Actually, Paul was saying maybe we could jump into head of the game. We could talk about it a little bit there, but classes are very cool, and that would be neat. I'm sure everyone would love to hear about that.
Classes and masteries is a very common question, like the system.
Yeah. Let's see, did we get Matt? Negative.
Matt went AWOL.
He only went AWOL because we forgot to invite him, man. Oh no. I feel bad. Let's show some new Exemplar models and gear. We'll let that play, and I'll give everyone a little context afterwards. But let's roll that.
We shared that we had a new Exemplar, male and female. This month, we have all the races modeled out for the males, and we have the first stubbed in for the females also. All right, so where are we with goblins? Well, we've been doing scavs and hunters, and now we have our big heavies. And these model sheets are also all factored in with 3D models, first pass 3D models. And we have the height variances and initial pass on color blocks. And we have concepts for every piece of weapon, every weapon that we've got planned for the alpha of the game. And we also have all of our gear mapped out and planned out. This is just hot off the presses. We have a review for this, so there could be changes still, but we do have the basic layout of design and art plans for all of our gear here.
These are our small stabbers, the daggers.
Look at that shiv.
It's hard. There's like, that's probably going to have to be revisited when we go over these. Here's our large stabums.
Very cool.
And I'm not going to do, so these are just the meshes with some colors stubbed in. When we go to, after we do some reviews and stuff, bows, there's strings drawn. We didn't have strings before, so I just put them on. We can always delete them. I don't know what the plan is. And that concludes the things that you can kill stuff with.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff there, and Sarah's awesome. She's so fast. Some context. I don't know if you guys noticed in the last tech test, our exemplars looked a little funky. You know, I mean, it's just you just get up on their faces. They look weird. So we took a final pass at those, and in the next tech test, guys, you will be able to play all of the Exemplar races, both male and female, which will be really cool. And we're even making sure that there's at least the meshes are being rigged and such so that there will be and there can be facial animation and basic facial animation. I don't know if we'll be able to get that in the next tech test, but we have talked about at least trying to get some jaw and some mouth movement so that you are very clear who's doing the gobbledygook to you. So that's a tremendously difficult, avatars in general, guys, are just way harder than anything else. There's so many things you have to consider when making them, and they take a long time to do and to get right. So I'm very happy that they're getting in. They look great, and there won't be those weird screenshots from the last tech test, those funky faces. And like that elf neck was so weird, that like super funky skinned elf neck wasn't right either. The goblins too, guys, have always been a little bit of a thing for me, that we're trying to make a scary medieval magical world. And I kind of thought our other goblins landed in a place that was a little funny looking. They're kind of cute, like Don't Feed Me After Midnight gremlin cute. Maybe not even that scary. So they're getting another pass too. And one of the things that I think is kind of cool and feeds into the simulation is that in some games you make a discrete mesh and set of animations and call that a creature. Instead, we can make creatures of different sizes slightly change their color, their shape, and equip them in a way that, based on their mastery and classes and skills, will generate a tremendous amount of variety. They're living, they're eating, they will get hungry and they will want to eat, and you will be food, and they would see you as meat and they will kill you. I mean, I absolutely want a player to die and see 10 goblin scabs run over and try to eat them. Which again, here's some sausage. What does that mean? Do you get tagged as meat when you die? Is there meat in your inventory that you can't see, and that's tagged as something they can eat? Like, this is stuff that we all talk about and have to figure out, guys, but are fun conversations. What constitutes meat and your ability to eat if you're an NPC? Because, is it just deer parts? Like when we kill a deer, I think we had deer parts that you could convert and craft. But how do we want to handle food? Anyway, fascinating stuff. Easier for us. We go to a tavern and we eat, but how do the NPCs, what quantifies food for the NPCs is always kind of interesting to dig into. And then exemplars are food. That we know for sure. You are food. All right, what's next?
We get some new animations, and they show the females and death and also blocking. Dawn, are we going to have blocking in the next tech test?
Not for the next test, but shields and blocking or defensive in general is a core part of our game.
Are you 100% positive we're not going to have that in the next tech test?
Well, in the last meeting, we said no. So right now, it is on the no list.
All right. They're doing stabby things. See the skinning on that elbow, man? I'm telling you, we should have gone segmented.
We can talk about torches.
Oh, yes.
I wish Maxie was talking over this. I remember he did this really quickly, didn't he? Like just in a few days. Maybe
yeah, he cranked
first person death. So good. I love that one. Whoa. Yeah, so, a lot of this stuff, guys, you just kind of get them in the game and try to get them, working with motion matching and make sure they're syncing up to the actions you can perform on the server. And then once you get all in there, then you start refining it. Those weren't the latest avatar models either. Those animations are on, but I do love the animation of what looked like the Lantern of the Sun. And we should maybe talk about torches. Don, you want to talk about torches?
Maybe not on this one, because we're going to be showing that, I think, pretty soon.
All right, we'll save torches, but light is important when things get dark. You know, again, we don't artificially darken the world, but we don't artificially brighten it either. So, you know, on a night with a full moon, you might be able to see kind of something out there, but you start walking in caves and, well, depending on the exemplar you have, you know, you'll want that torch, you'll want that light. And if you're holding a torch, you know, that's taking up your hand holding a torch, and it'll make other actions, you know, more difficult to do. We love the idea that high-level players keep a level 1 guy around as the torchbearer. You walk around with a light, and you know, and if he gets killed, you just get a new one. Get a new pay someone to come with you and be the torchbearer. I think that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we'll talk more about torches and lights and that mechanic in the next one, guys. Let's talk about the environment team updates. The environment team, the whole team is killing it, and the environment team updates are really slick. How much did you show on this, man? While you edited this video, I don't think I've seen this one. Is this?
I removed all the names for starters. I think the only one.
Spoiler alerts.
The only one was where we mentioned the tech test. So that's the only one that was mentioned, but I removed all the names and I trimmed out a lot. Just little snippets.
Just a little snippet. All right, chuck it in there. Let's
Here
go.
in the environment team, we've been cranking away on getting the next set of zones done. Right here is just the topology view of the 9, technically 10 zones, part of phase 1. So initially we started out with Narrows Beach, Narrows Landing, and the Citadel, which are sort of in this position here. And then all the initial zones we intend to work on for phase 1 are in, phase 1 release are in Pass 0, Pass 1 at the moment. Along with this past month, all the zones now are playable in a build. All level errors have been fixed. So next Friday, we're going to start playtesting King's March, so we can start getting feedback on that. And with that note, we're also going to move forward with King's March for our tech test, field of battle tech test. So we're going to start hammering on that to get that up to shipping polish phase and start testing that, including all of the range combat and such.
So
every time I see an update, I'm blown away.
It's cool. It's looking really, really cool, guys. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of variation in elevation, which I always find interesting. A lot of very beautiful natural forms, but it's very, very cool. Then, you know, the next tech test, guys, you know, we always need your help. You know, it's like we're developing this stuff and we need to test it at scale. We need to put it through its paces. So you might have heard the name Field of Battle. That is kind of our internal code name for the next tech test, because we really need to see a large number of players and a large number of creatures with the new AI system that we're building in there and being performant. And, you know, you guys, you know, fundamentally destroying and breaking it, which is awesome. So what do we got next? Oh, this is cool. Oh, yeah, this one's nice.
Yeah, I mean,
our new VFX artist, G. We love you, G. If you're out there, brother.
That was the big missing piece in the last tech test. Was we really needed some love in the environment.
Yeah, just unification of what does water look like? What does a hit effect look like? What does, you know, the fire, a flame, a torch? What does that style look like? And G is just, he's awesome.
Paul, can you just play? Because that one doesn't have audio. So we could just talk over it.
Yeah. Just starting, you know, to unify some of the flames and just, you know, revisiting it and kind of unifying it against everything else in the game. Flaming arrows. Yeah. Flaming arrows would be very cool. But, you know, a lot of times you're trying to come up with something generic that can be applied to many objects. The ocean, I don't know if we're going to get all the way to like the best ocean in the universe, but it will have waves and it will look gorgeous. I love this. I mean, I could look at that shit all day long. Look at that. It's so beautiful. But I just like how the style of VFX is coming together and working really well with the environments. It's just feeling really great. It's really great work. And all of that can be data driven and can be updated and changed really easily too. So G's aesthetic sense and technical chops are on point. So you'll see a lot better looking stuff on that front in the next demo. And we got stuff by a couple pieces by Hugo's. No one's seen these, Manuel? These are
Nope. Well, we showed the front view one for the thumbnail, but that top view one, that's the one I like the most. The bird's eye view.
Wow.
Ardent Horn.
That was a leak by Dawn.
Nice leak, Dawn.
Yeah, like that just looks so.
I know.
It looks like a maze. Yeah, hallways, verticality, so many options.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Imagine all the places you can shoot arrows from and be shot from.
You will die in all of these locations, unless our incredible community tells us make Mirandus easy. But we have not heard that yet. We have not heard make Mirandus easy. So we'll make it hard, guys. We'll make heroes.
Yeah, we've heard make it hard, and if you die in Mirandus, you die in real life.
Sword Art Online, dude. SAO. Let's go. Hardcore mode. I wonder how many people would sign up for that.
Too many.
Oh, it'd be brutal. Sword Art Online, guys. If you haven't watched it, it's so great. What a great anime for all you anime nerds out there, like this guy. I'm totally rewatching Hunter. Like Hunter x Hunter might be the greatest thing that's ever been made. Maybe than Death Note. And I'm super sucked into Baki, guys, too. I mean, Baki's great. It's all great for all my nerds out there. Let's go. Lastly, guys, a couple more things. We did do a little, little Web3 blockchain cleanup, we like to call it. But there's just some stuff that we had in our wallet that we like to kind of burn and destroy over time. So there are no more Rings of Discord. There are no more Cruel Fate cards for the Deck of Time, or Goblin Fortune cards, or Mirandus Golden tickets. So if you guys have those, know that there aren't others that exist anymore. You guys have them, and the rest we have burned. We have talked about, when you see these cards, know that more cards are coming, and know that they're going to be woven into the game in a cool, important way in the future. So hold on to those things. They're pretty sweet. We also have Mirandus Shipwreck. Again, we have these things that are in the store and they're not priced right. Given the global economy, and we want them in your hands, guys. They're never meant to be something that's hanging out in our treasury. They're meant to be owned, run, and operated by you. And so that's what Shipwreck, the crates, are about. The lore there is that some people tried to make it to Mirandus, and they didn't have everything they needed to have to know the correct route. And we'll talk about more of that as time goes on. But they essentially have thrown their ship onto the rocks. You cannot make it to the world of Mirandus without some specific navigational abilities. So, the Shipwreck crates are meant to be kind of a fun, cool thing for you guys. And, the idea is that in each one of them, do they all have 3? Some have 2 or 1, right, Manuel?
Correct. Based on rarity.
Yeah, so there's cool stuff in all of them, but some of them there's incredibly rare and cool stuff. So we're working hard to get that to you guys, but we want to get to it. We want to get it to you guys the right way, and we're going to hold it until it is right. And for instance, some of the crates will have Materium in them. we didn't want anyone to open a crate and get Materium unless that Materium existed. It existed on GALACHAIN. It could be bridged as an ERC20 and back, so we're trying to make sure that all of just that core kind of blockchain and Web3 functionality is available for all of the items as you get them. So I think we're most of the way there, but Manuel, do you have an update?
Yeah, pretty much. We know the Materium bridging works, but there's just some outstanding bugs. For example, the Materium you get in the Shipwreck boxes, there's just a bug bridging that one. But we have bridged Materium back and forth. So, that's just an odd situation. So little bugs like that we just need to find, polish, and make sure that it's all working.
Yeah, there's a bug with opening, right?
There's a bug where the opening experience itself can freeze. So it looks like it just arrows out, but you do get your items, but it's super confusing. And so, that's not, you do, the box does open, and it's a weird one because it's really hard to, it doesn't happen all the time. It's really hard to trigger what is triggering it freezing. So is it the item? Is it the coin you're using? Right? I'm not entirely sure, but it's just most of the time it works. There's just some outstanding bugs that we need to polish.
Those are the things we like to fix, guys. I mean, if we know about them and they're happening internally, we know that you'll encounter them too. So it's very, very close, but we have a few more bugs to fix up, and then we'll get it in your hands. One of the things that I love is going down this path ensured a lot better and deeper integration into GALACHAIN just in general, especially on the Materium front. This is work that we knew we wanted to do and had to do, such that you could be earning Materium when you play, and you could be spending Materium and all that stuff that needs to exist on GALACHAIN. So, this laid a lot of the foundational work for that, and I was really happy to hold Shipwreck until they've spun up those Mirandus and Materium channels on GALACHAIN. So I'm pretty happy about that progress too. For everything that we do on Mirandus, guys, we never talk about it on these fireside chats, but there is so much work that goes on in platform, and there is really kind of an incredibly large and powerful, awesome group at Gala Central, making GALACHAIN awesome, making the platform awesome. And so we love you guys. Big hearts to you guys too. There would be no Mirandus without you. So big shout out to all our other support services at Gala. Heck, man, while we're digging into support services, let's go, man. There's legal and IT and, just everybody, marketing. And so anyway, sometimes you'll hear game developers talk about that stuff, guys. And I don't think we talk about it enough, but if you start your own company and you're bootstrapping, making software, you quickly learn how nice it is that you have this army of people behind you that can handle that stuff and let you focus. So to everyone at Gala Central, big love from the Mirandus team. We appreciate you. And let's see. Oh, let's give a shout out to Cal F, dude, from Everglen, who built a Mirandus themed Discord RPG. That was pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
Paul, can you roll that? It's not finished, but it's just loosely based on the tech test and kind of the activities that you had to do, right? He does, he's from Everglen, but he says it's not going to be guild specific. Everyone can enjoy this. So we don't need drama, but it's just awesome. He just built
it. Super cool, man. That's really fun. That's really fun.
Yeah, and he mentioned, he might just do some, some contests on there, and maybe have a leaderboard, who kills the most goblins, cool stuff like that.
Yeah, that was really cool work. That's super, super fun. I'm going to try to hit really quick some questions, because I know we're running over on time a bit, but there were some new questions that flew in. Where did the name Mirandus come from? That's always a fun one, guys. You know, when you're first starting to think of what a project could be, what do you name it? You know, and you typically come up with a code name that super stinks and everyone hates, but you just kind of refer to it over time. So Mirandus was an upgrade to the original. I'm not even going to say the original out loud because it's so bad. But you know, Mirandus means miracle or wonder. That's really what it means. And so that's kind of woven into the game and the spirit of it, that, you know, the Isles of Mirandus, while incredibly dangerous, also hold great miracles and great wonder. Citadels. Updates on the remaining 3 citadels that are unsold. Can any player buy a citadel? How can players join with one of the monarchs to serve as a knight in their court? Anyone can buy a citadel, but they are incredibly expensive at this point. And a lot of times, you know, citadels are an interesting one because citadels are not placed by hand in the world. They function as major central points, not just for players, but also for also as major kind of narrative and story arc elements. With every citadel that comes to life, the game kind of changes fundamentally. So you can buy them, but they're crazy expensive. And a lot of that is because of all the time, work, and energy that goes into building them and supporting them. They're a truly custom piece. When you own a citadel, you do have the right to choose your court. And that will give people in your court a buff. Owning a deed gives you a buff, and the better deed you own can give you a better buff, and you can assign a court if you own a citadel, which is pretty sweet. One of the things that gets asked quite a bit is there a way for a group of players to own a citadel? You know, in order for us to remain kind of a decentralized network, I don't think that like Gala itself can form like a DAO or something that would distribute ownership to players. That's something that I don't think we can do. But I absolutely love the idea that you guys could organize outside of Gala corporate and do something like that. And it's not just for a citadel, it's for anything that's kind of would be big and too crazy for most people to own in its entirety. You know, it's like a timeshare. Can't buy a $10 million condo. Holy crap. But maybe, you know, spend a little bit of money and you can be there 2 days, you know, 2 weeks out of the year or something, you know. Is there a way to timeshare a citadel or something? That would be really neat. But it's nothing we can kind of do or organize. It needs to be something that lands in your guys' hands. But I really would love and hope to see that. Someone's asking, does the Goblin Queen have a king? I would say that we're not going to discuss that one. That might reveal a little too much, Don. I would say. Yeah. There's questions about the layouts for water-based deeds. The reason, you know, if you look at the deeds for towns, guys, you know, you can load them up and look at what you should be expecting. The reason that we haven't done that for water-based deeds yet is because there's a lot of work that goes on in us figuring out if we can make them 100% physical or not. And that is always our goal. It would be amazing to see an active port where the boats are truly coming in and out and they each have their own places that they can be. And so to lock in that and how exactly that works and make sure it doesn't look crazy janky, that's just a lot of design and effort and energy that goes into that. But when that is locked, we will let you know. There is a question about, do they have room for buildings and shops? And I think the answer to that is yes at the higher tiers, certainly like the wharf. You know, they'll have some buildings that you would expect to find. You know, again, we're trying to simulate about what this would be. If you need major stuff, you would go to a town or a city. But there certainly would be kind of basic structures, I think, assembled around a wharf. So that will be the case. There's a question about player classes, but we'll wait for that, Don. We'll dig into kind of classes and mastery.
Give a quick overview if you want to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So classes basically are ancient scrolls that unlock information and abilities in yourself, and they come with a passive boost and either 1, 2, or 3 additional actions for your chosen sort of mastery of weapon type. And that's all we'll say.
Yeah, they're. I consider one of the things that we talk about, guys, is being renowned, and I consider a class to be something you should be renowned for. Renowned,
Mhm.
but it should be cool if you have it.
It's your title as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like you are the Blade Master, the Bloody Blade Master of the West, or whatever. Not everyone should be able to have one of those. They should be scarce, and very few people should be able to actually equip it. And to equip it means a massive boost to your powers and abilities. So we think of classes as less of a way that you define yourself when the game first begins, and more of something that you grow to earn and show off. So we think they're pretty cool. They'll work in an intuitive way, but they'll be really cool and powerful. Is there a history and a mythology behind Mirandus? Yes, it is deep and touches all things, but we will not betray what that is. That definitely needs to remain a secret. Part of, I think, the history and the mythology of Mirandus, part of enjoying the game is discovering what that is over time through clues that might be available in the world, or maybe not. Maybe they won't be available out there. They will be available out there to discover. Will there be any NPC factions is one of the questions. I think that's interesting. The answer to that is absolutely. It's actually kind of the way it's a way the simulation runs. Things are aware of their friends and people around them that they know, love, and trust versus things they don't. So, a deer is in a faction of deer and would run from wolves or things that might be a threat. And I think when they're asking about NPC factions in this question, I think they're talking about rival factions, potentially, think of 2 rival goblin factions that hate each other. I think that too could be possible. It would certainly be fun to kite a rival faction member into another. That's risky business. But
that leads to some weird behaviors, though. Like the idea of having one monster fight another monster and you just come and collect the goods afterwards isn't really much of a fun game. I mean, it's like playing a necromancer in Diablo. You're not really doing the work, but you're getting all the benefit. So, but I mean, it's doable.
I'd say throw it in there and see how it works, man. I mean, again, it would be really interesting. I mean, incredibly, shockingly risky business, but I'm going to kite an enemy who's just going to be peppering you with arrows and murdering you. If you can successfully kite an enemy over to a rival faction, they would attack each other, I suspect. They would attack each other. You being in their territory is risky. So it's not just like a layup, Jace. I think it'd be more like you're in the middle of 2 factions that hate you and hate each other. They probably hate you worse.
So once I'm dead, they kill each other, and then my friends come and scoop up the goods.
They just yell at each other. They yell at each other, throw rocks, and walk away. Posture.
Yeah, we could do it. I don't know that ends up being a great game. We could do it.
The tech supports it, guys. So smash that like button on rival NPC factions. If yeah. Sorry, guys. Let me pop over to Discord. I'm here, guys. I'm checking out Discord discussion. Is there a burning one that's on people's minds real quick? We'll probably have time for 1 or 2 more. Just chuck them into Mirandus, the Mirandus discussion channel. There is, let's see. one of the questions is around will there be laws and rules set by man, and how are these enforced, and can they be changed or overthrown through rebellion? I definitely want this concept of a seat of governance within the world of Mirandus. That's the forum we've mentioned before, but I think all of you guys, you need to have a voice about the world and how it works. And I kind of, and I'll tell you a really, really great example of it. I like the narrative and the lore and the idea that, you guys are bound by a contract or a law or agreement that the Exemplars have with each other. So for instance, loot mechanics, who gets what, an at sea salvage, kind of thing, right? There's just a law of the sea. There's a law of the land, and we can develop, and I think we have, what was it, 8, Don? We have 8 different loot proposals. This is
There's more than that.
Yeah, I think there's 8 kind of core solid ones, but no loot system is going to make everybody happy. But we can, it's not necessarily a ton more work for us to develop one loot system over another. So it's the kind of thing that we would want to bring to the Grand Forum, to bring to you guys and have you guys vote on, and then we would implement that. And yes, absolutely, over time, if you guys are thinking it doesn't work and this sucks, then those rules could be changed. But, again, I like to root things in a narrative and a lore, and this is just kind of the constitution and the law of the land of Mirandus, and I want you guys to own and control that. So, my Curious is asking, can we have an AMA inside Mirandus? Oh my God, do we talk about that all the time? I want our team meetings to be inside Mirandus. Once we get the voice stuff really singing, see what
it's
I
a
did?
little gobbledygook right now.
Yeah, it'd make for a rough meeting right now because of the stone cold gobbledygook that we're kicking. But yeah, I love the idea that we could have team meetings inside the game. I love the idea that we could have a fireside chat and meet you guys in the game and talk with you and hang out. So I think that's it, guys. I think we're about 23 minutes past, but hope you guys enjoyed those updates. We love doing these, and I hope you guys love just kind of seeing our little development images and videos. Smash that like button, right, Manuel?
Like and subscribe. Smash that like button, guys.
Press it gently. Press it gently, everyone.
Oh my God, I can't even. I still just can't even say it. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.